Collected Essays of Valerie Lynn Stevens. True Faith. Ascetic abstention and abnegation, in and of themselves, are not a sufficient means towards an achievement of moral soundness or psychospiritual edification and fruition. In other words, merely refraining from giving way to, say, a homicidal impulse and committing a murder of any penal classification doth not a saint make. We often like to deceive ourselves that, as long as we have ticked off all of the boxes of thou shalt nots, that we no longer owe our debt to God and society. We like to think that we can just fade away into the periphery of the landscape of life, footloose and fancy-free, once we have met our sectarian obligations. But of course, all of this religious piety and torpor is revealed to be yet another blunt yet deft tool of Satan's dark craft, weaving the illusion that ritualistic exactitude clothes one in the finest wear, when it in fact merely succeeds in wearing one down. Faith, by virtue, exacts something from the seeker of it. True moral fortitude requires risk. It embodies both secular refrain and ecclesiastical dynamism. Although this metaphysical phenomenon often happens in a reverse manner, instead of the methodology through which goodness can manifest itself being related only to what we do, it seems quite the opposite most of the time, that we feel to have achieved some moral triumph from within ourselves, more so when we have successfully resisted an action of potential or assured evil or destructiveness. Of course, it may seem mere common sense that good must also be proactive and not just passive. However, it is often the simplest truths one most easily becomes blind to. For far less merit and applause are granted to these quieter, subtler, and more internal moralistic triumphs. Yet these, of all meaningful and profoundly worthwhile endeavors and victories, are of primary and ultimate significance for the salvation of each and every individual human being. But of course, this is merely further evidence of the satanic at work as a pernicious and insidious force within the world. For those dark powers of this world and of the heavenly realms are surely aware that the most effective way towards the oppression of the virtuous potentiation of a human heart and mind is in keeping them ever distracted and turned away from the very spiritual weaponry of their own salvation, which is always at their disposal, through the orthopraxis of both secular abnegation and sacramental fortitude. On the whole, one seeking true faith must submit to the soul-smithing master craftsmanship of God, asking in earnest supplication for him to craft oneself into a rare and holy shrine of both venal abnegation and discarnate concupiscence. For as Holy Writ tells, faith without works is dead. And furthermore, reading between the sacred lines, religious ritualism, without some sincerity of feeling behind it, is also dead, or worse yet, a putrefying remnant of the living dead, embedding its stench into the soul's flesh of those who don its regalia as proudly and insolently as the devil his unmasked self flaunts on All Hallows' Eve. In a word, religiosity is easy, but true faith is scathing and arduous. Although, in a reverse proportional sort of way, it also possesses the greatest potential for soteriological edification in any fully redemptive sense. Indeed, even Christ himself had to make that descent into Hades before he was fit for heaven. And likewise for us, his floundering disciples, our lives are granted to enact this very same drama of the grand design, although we keep asking the same tired questions again and again. What is the meaning of this life? Why are we here? Perhaps we need just accept the fact that we already know the answers to these questions. And perhaps quite simply yet profoundly, the aim of their nagging insistence, which seems to be built into the very blueprint of our ontological machinery, is to goad us on evermore in finding our way towards true faith and towards the answers to all of life's philosophical inquiries. Because, as any truth seeker of faith and salvation comes to see, the answers lie only within the search itself.